The first thing I remember is the silence, the kind that settles on your skin like frost. It was the moment my name thundered across the loudspeakers. Susan, master of data analytics, and not a single familiar face lifted in the crowd. That silence felt like the opening note of a long-delayed retribution, the spark that would eventually ignite every unresolved grievance I'd buried for years. The stadium in Ardenport shimmered under the May sun, rows of metal seats flashing like polished knives. The section marked reserved for family stared back at me, empty, metallic, accusing. My smile for the camera was tight, almost polite, an instinctive mask hiding the open wound of being forgotten, yet again. I held the diploma so hard my knuckles blanched, pretending the victory didn't ache. Around me, joy erupted like confetti. Students folded into their parents' arms. Flowers rustled against gowns. Phones flashed, recording proof of pride. I stood beside a stranger's family as they posed, their laughter brushing against me like a reminder of something I'd never had. Every click of their camera felt like a small punishment. In the courtyard, I lingered with my phone in hand, scrolling, tapping, performing the illusion of belonging. Ruby bounded toward me, her excitement spilling over. "You did it!" she squealed, pulling me into her photo, her parents beaming. She glanced around. "Where's your family? Stuck in traffic?" "Yeah," I murmured, the lie sliding out smooth, well-rehearsed. Lies were easier than explaining the kind of betrayal that repeats until it becomes routine. By the time I reached the parking lot, the sun had turned the sky gold. Balloons tugged at their strings. Kids darted between rows of cars. I sat in my dented grey Civic and imagined, just for a heartbeat, my parents walking toward me. Mum waving, Avery in her glitter sneakers, Dad carrying a bouquet. That vision dissolved as engines revved and families drove away. I should have expected it. They'd skipped my college graduation too. Back then, Mum texted, "Avery has finals." Dad didn't bother with an excuse. There was always something shinier, more urgent, more deserving than me. As a teenager, I'd believed love was something you earned. I woke before dawn, wearing a brown Starbucks apron, serving caffeinated comfort to half-awake lawyers while my family slept. Mom's messages always came in the same tone. "Thanks, honey. Avery needs piano lessons." "She has a field trip, just a little extra." Obligation disguised as affection, gratitude twisted into currency. And I paid, every time. When I got into grad school, I thought achievement would finally buy me a place in my own family. I didn't realize success only made me a more convenient resource. 3 days after the ceremony, my cap and gown still hung near the door, untouched. That's when my phone buzzed. "Need 12,100 was for your sister's sweet 16. No, how did it go? No, we're proud. Not even a belated emoji. Just numbers, a deadline, another command." I stared at the screen until it dimmed, my reflection ghost-like in the black glass. For the first time in years, the old, simmering resentment didn't fade. It tightened, solidified. My long, suppressed rage, quiet, patient, boiling, rose from whatever corner I had shoved it into. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't explosive, it was simple, precise. A personal justice forming like a blade being forged. I opened my banking app. My savings hovered just above $3,000, a fragile reassurance of independence. Something in me hardened with the sharp inevitability of grim atonement. I typed in $1. In the note, I wrote, "Congrats." Then, with a slow exhale, I hit send. The screen blinked. The word sent glowed back at me, small and final, like the first deliberate step toward a punishment long overdue. I dropped the spare key into the trash like it was a piece of old rusted guilt I no longer owed anyone. That key had lived in my drawer for years, the one my mother insisted on keeping for emergencies, though the only emergencies she ever recognized were financial. When it hit the trash bag with a dull thud, something inside me shifted. A small act, yet it felt like the first true strike in a long overdue war for my own life. That night, the locksmith arrived, an older man with a gentle voice and tools that chimed softly as he worked, like metal, whispering a promise of closure. When the new lock settled into place with a clean, definitive click, it sounded like personal justice made tangible. Grim, quiet atonement. A boundary carved into steel. After he left, I lingered in the doorway, inhaling the scent of oil and metal. It grounded me, anchored me. This was the first door in my life that could no longer be opened by someone else's entitlement. Morning slid across my apartment like warm paint. I brewed coffee and watched the steam curl in soft spirals. For once, the silence wasn't a punishment. It was freedom. No footsteps bursting in, no demands wrapped in parental obligation. Peace finally had a shape, and it was mine. Until the knocking started. Not frantic, not polite, firm, rhythmic, a summons. My body went cold. Mrs. Hanley, my landlord, always called first. Through the peephole, 2 uniforms filled the hall. Ashburn police, badges glinting. "Miss Reed?" one of them said when I opened the door. Calm, professional. My heart slammed once, hard. "Yes?" The taller officer, dark-skinned, mid-30s, eyes sharper than his tone, lifted his badge. "We received a call from your mother. She reported concerning behaviour, changing locks, ignoring her calls. She's worried you might harm yourself." A laugh tried to escape my throat. Bitter, humourless. "She said what?" He softened. "We just need to verify you're okay. Mind if we come in?" I stepped aside. They scanned the apartment. Spotless table, a single coffee mug, my laptop open with job applications, my framed diploma hanging like a reminder I had earned my way out. I gestured around. "Does this look unstable to you?" The officer's mouth twitched with something almost like sympathy. "Not even close, Mum." He asked a few questions. Work, stress, health. I answered calmly. "Just finished my degree, applying for jobs. No medical issues, just boundaries." He nodded. "Understood. We'll file the report as no concern. If your mother calls again, refer her to this visit." They reached the door, but before leaving, he paused. Sometimes, when people finally stand up for themselves, others panic. Happens more than you'd think. When the door shut, I leaned against it, trembling. Not from fear. From fury. My mother hadn't just overstepped a line. She'd launched an assault on it. She'd weaponized authority, using the police as punishment for my disobedience. A tactic meant to shame, to drag me back into submission. That night, I sat on the couch, the police report glowing in my inbox like a scar freshly reopened. Memories replayed, the guilt-laced messages, the demands disguised as devotion, the phrase she wielded like a sacred truth, "Family helps family," which really meant you owe us. Control, never care. And if she was willing to send officers to my door, this battle wasn't close to finished. The silence no longer felt peaceful. It felt like the moment a storm gathers, heavy, electric, inevitable. I wasn't going to stand still and wait to be struck. At dawn, the city of Ashburn Heights lay beneath a soft haze. The police report sat beside my phone, untouched. My mother's silence since the incident didn't soothe me. It unsettled me. She'd gone quiet before, but never without a scheme brewing. I made coffee, opened my laptop, intending to drown myself in resumes and cover letters. Instead, an impulse, sharp and instinctive, made me check my banking app. 2 new credit inquiries blinked on the screen. Vanguard Credit, Northline Financial, both recent, both unfamiliar. A cold, surgical dread sliced through my chest. I clicked through to my credit report, and there they were, 2 accounts opened in my name. My social security number, my birthday, my identity. But the address wasn't mine. It was my parents' house in Bridgemont. The balances were already in the thousands. Then the transaction history appeared, a grotesque parade. Bell Reeve Events, Aurora DJ Collective, Lux Vanity Studio. My mother's earlier message detonated in my mind. Need $2,100 for your sister's sweet 16. It hadn't been a request. It had been a warning, a blueprint, a setup for the latest betrayal. With shaking hands, I dialed the number on the statement. When the representative answered, my voice came out steady, razor-thin. "This is Susan Reed," I said. "I need to report identity theft." And for the first time, I tasted the slow burn of revenge forming on my tongue like a promise. The representative's voice thinned into caution. I could hear her scrolling, reading something on her screen she was hesitant to repeat. "Miss Reed, this account was opened in person at our Bridgemont Hills branch. It lists a co-applicant, Jessica." For a moment, everything inside me stalled. The room held perfectly still, the hum of the refrigerator dropping to nothing, the clock's ticking somehow muting itself. Even the air felt suspended, waiting for me to process the blow. "We'll classify this as suspected fraud," she added gently. "You'll receive paperwork within a day." When the line disconnected, I didn't move. Her signature, her address, her contact number. She hadn't borrowed my identity by accident or confusion. She had stepped into my skin deliberately. I opened my voice recorder, my fingers moving with eerie calm. Colorado's one-party consent law had never felt so grimly poetic. I dialed. 3 rings. She answered like a knife. "Oh, so you're not dead?" "Mum," I said, my voice flat, almost clinical. 2 credit cards were opened under my name, connected to your address. Care to clarify?" A brittle laugh crackled through the speaker. "Don't be ridiculous, Susan. I was building your credit. You should be grateful. Avery's Sweet 16 isn't cheap. Money stays in the family. What's yours is ours." "No," I whispered, the word quiet enough to sting. "What's mine is mine. What's yours is now part of a fraud investigation." The silence on her end landed like a blow. "You wouldn't dare," she breathed. "I already did." I hung up, saved the recording, titled it Boundaries, May 17th, 2025. Morning light crept across my apartment floor, brushing against the frame of my diploma and the gleaming new lock on the door. Both symbols of hard-earned independence. Both reminders that I had built a life without her help, and now I was finally defending it. The quiet around me didn't feel empty anymore. It felt powerful, charged, like the rumble before lightning strikes. The diner in Ridgeview Crossing was exactly what I needed. Neutral territory with coffee that tasted like burnt regret, and cracked booths that encouraged politeness. A place where confrontation couldn't explode without witnesses. They showed up late, of course. My mother walked in first, floral dress swaying like she was heading to brunch instead of a reckoning. My father lingered behind her, shoulders smaller than I remembered. Avery trailed them, illuminated by her phone screen, thumbs flicking without pause. "Susan," my mother snapped as she slid into the booth opposite me. "All this for dinner?" "We're not here to eat," I said. My tone surprised even me. Flat, cold, unshakably steady. "We're here because you forced it." The waitress poured coffee and vanished. I placed a brown folder on the table, pushed it toward them. 2 credit cards, I said, opened in my name, using your address. Both maxed out on Avery's party. My mother's smile wavered, then reassembled. "Sweetheart, please. I did that for you. You need credit. I was helping." "By forging my signature?" I asked softly. She flicked her hand, dismissive. "Stop making it dramatic. It's family. You've always been so ungrateful. Do you think people don't know we paid for your degree?" A short, cutting laugh escaped me. "You mean I paid for it? Every shift, every overtime hour, every loan you encouraged me to take while my college fund turned into Avery's wardrobe budget?" Avery rolled her eyes. "Here we go again." I turned to her. "That silver dress you twirled in? Bought on a card with my name printed across it. Enjoy the spotlight. You literally charged your way into it." She sank lower in the booth, jaw tightening. My mother's voice sharpened. "Enough! Don't attack your sister. I didn't steal anything. I borrowed. For the family." "You used my identity," I said. My voice no longer trembled. It struck. "You called the police on me because I changed my locks. You tried to paint me unstable. You wanted control. My father finally spoke, barely above a whisper. Sweetheart, your mum just misjudged. Let's handle this quietly. No need to ruin our reputation. I pushed the folder closer. There won't be anything quiet about this. The bank already has the report. My mother's head jerked upward. You did what? I reported the fraud, I repeated. Both accounts are frozen. The bank has your signature, your number, your address. Their next call won't be to me. The silence that followed felt heavy enough to crush ribs. A silence thick with fear. A silence laced with consequence. A silence I had earned. The murmur of the diner faded as though the room itself was holding its breath. My mother leaned forward, eyes narrowing into slits. You'll regret this, she hissed. You're tearing this family apart over nothing. I rose slowly, feeling the weight slide off my shoulders like an old coat. No, Mom, you broke this family the moment my name became more useful to you than my existence. I set Cash beside my half-finished coffee and walked out before she could spit out another lie. Outside, the air was thick with the promise of rain. I sat in my car, staring at my reflection in the rearview mirror. My hands trembled. My chest felt strange, lighter, as if something had been carved out of me, leaving space for something cleaner, stronger. Maybe even peace. That night, Riverlight Pavilion shimmered in purple and silver, Avery's big Sweet 16 spectacle, the event my mother had tried to finance through fraud and entitlement. I wasn't invited, but I already knew the night wouldn't end with the sparkle she envisioned. At 8:45 p.m, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Miss Reed, a crisp female voice said. This is Karen, legal liaison for Northline Financial in Colorado. Your fraud report has been escalated. Our team is coordinating with local authorities to verify transactions occurring tonight at Riverlight Pavilion. You are not required to be present, but we believe you should be informed. My breath hitched. You're sending the police to the venue. Yes, ma'am. Standard protocol. They'll document all charges made under the disputed account. I thanked her, hung up and leaned back. Through my cracked window, faint music drifted from downtown, the distant pulse of a celebration about to unravel thread by thread. 40 minutes later, my phone buzzed violently. Avery. Are you insane? The police just showed up. The DJ stopped, everyone staring. Mum's losing it. Another message. They said your name. The bank guy said your name. What did you do? I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Across town, inside the glowing hall, draped in silver banners and a vanity-sized Avery's Sweet 16, 2 officers stepped through the entrance. No flashing lights, no theatrics, just steady authority cutting through the glitter-heavy air. A banker followed behind them with a folder thick enough to choke someone. Good evening, one officer announced. We're here to verify a report of fraudulent credit activity linked to this event. Charges appear under the account name Susan Reed. The crowd rippled with whispers. Phones lifted discreetly. My mother stiffened near the cake table, the 5-tier masterpiece looming behind her like an accusation. Her complexion drained. There must be a mistake, she stammered. This is... The banker opened the folder, reading with surgical precision. Primary applicant, Jessica. Co-signer, unauthorized. Address does not match the credit holder. Transactions inconsistent with approved use. Gasps. A few murmured, Isn't that her daughter's name? Avery, standing in the centre of the dance floor, whispered, voice cracking, Mum, what did you do? The officer remained neutral. No arrests tonight. This is strictly documentation for the bank's case. We'll need copies of receipts and the ID used to open the account. The silence in the hall throbbed with humiliation. Camera flashes flickered like lightning bugs. Half the guests recorded. The other half stared at the floor, pretending not to witness the collapse. Within minutes, the DJ unplugged his setup. The silver banner reading, Born to Shine, sagged under the humidity, drooping like a dying flower. Guests slipped out in clusters of whispers and pity. By the time my mother stepped outside, rain had begun. Soft, steady, relentless. the kind that soaked into fabric and bone, the kind that washed away anything fragile. Back in my apartment, I stood by the window, watching lightning thread itself across the night sky. I didn't smile, didn't celebrate. I simply breathed and let the quiet fold over me like a blanket. Justice didn't always roar. Sometimes it whispered. Sometimes it was the echo after a door slammed shut forever. For years, I'd mistaken silence for weakness. That night, I realized it was victory. 3 days later, the storm overhead had cleared, but the fallout remained. An email landed in my inbox. Northline Financial Fraud Investigation, resolved. Primary applicant Jessica has acknowledged unauthorized use and agreed to repay $8,412 in full. One line. No apology, no spin, just truth, finally documented. And in a suburb like Bridgemont, truth travels faster than justice ever could. Whispers spread faster than wildfire. In supermarket aisles, at Sunday services, over coffee counters and school pickup lines. Did you hear about the Reeds? Something with the bank, and that sweet 16. A 30-second video, Avery's party collapsing under flashing police lights and stunned silence, circulated online like gossip with teeth. It hit 500,000 views before she frantically locked down every account she owned. But by then, the damage was done. Public humiliation travels at its own speed. My father didn't escape untouched either. His company quietly reprimanded him for redirecting family mail and financial statements to his office address, a shortcut he had used for years, exposed in an instant. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. I ignored their texts, their missed calls, their long, guilt-laced voicemails. Not out of fury, mine had already cooled into something far more final, but because I had no energy left to explain what should have been unmistakable all along. I completed the FTC forms, froze my credit, shut down every financial pathway my mother had ever touched. Then I printed the final confirmation letter and pinned it on the wall beside 2 other relics. My diploma, the locksmith's receipt, the fraud resolution letter, 3 documents in a row, proof of effort, proof of defense, proof of escape. That night, I brewed tea and opened my window. The evening air of Ashburn Heights drifted in, chilled, indifferent, honest. Below me, the city hummed, unaware of the war I had just won. For the first time, the silence didn't bruise. It healed. 6 months later, autumn settled over Ellisbrook Avenue in shades of amber and rust. Leaves crackled underfoot. The sky carried that particular kind of cold that felt like a reset button. By then, my life had shifted into something sturdier, calmer. I had started a new job at Nova Data Labs, surrounded by people who valued what I created rather than what I could provide. People who didn't see me as an open wallet or a backup plan, but as a mind, a contributor, a colleague. On the wall of my small but sunlit office hung 3 items: my framed diploma, my crisp employee badge, and the old lock I had replaced the night I stopped letting anyone trespass into my life. Together, they told a single story, a story about choosing myself, finally, unapologetically, without flinching. If you've ever had to draw a boundary just to breathe again, you're not alone. Tell me where you're watching from. I want to know how many of us had the courage to change the locks,